Well, good afternoon, everyone. Those online and in person. Thank you all for being here. So my name is Jim Godfrey. I'd like to go ahead and call the CAC meeting to order now that they got this little hammer up here. I guess I better use it. Oh, gavel. I'm sorry. We have a quorum. And all alternates can vote. Is that right, Rick?
Mr. Chair, I'll need to take a roll call, see how many we have.
Okay.
To see if all alternates can vote. So I'm seeing Craig, I'm seeing Emily. Do we have Tamara on?
I see Karen.
Yes. Tamara. Dave Zelenak.
Cindy just signed on.
Okay, good. Cindy, is Bruce with you?
We just
Yes.
lost her. Lee. Olan.
Cindy, do we have Bruce with you? And Tony just arrived. Okay, so I'm seeing all alternates can vote as of now. But
Okay.
if Tamara arrives or Dave or Bruce, then I'll have to jump in and let you know.
Okay. All right, so let me just start off by reading the purpose statement for the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. The primary objective of the CAC is to ensure the capital maintenance and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters at the November 2nd, 2004, November 6th, 2012, and November 7th, 2017 ballot measures are accomplished with PPRTA funds. This committee reports directly to the PPRTA Board of Directors. I would like to also just so that we have it for the record, if you make a motion or second or something, please identify yourself into your mic so that we have that on record and the people online can see who's talking or making that judgment. All right. Do I hear a motion for approval of the agenda? Richard, approve motion, second. Joan, Ed, I'll get you next time. All right. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, agenda is approved. Do I have any public comments for items that are not on the agenda? Anyone in the audience for public comments? Not seeing anyone jumping up and running to the podium. Anyone online, public comments? Don't see any hands.
No hands raised and no comments in chat.
All right, thank you, Dolly, and thank you for being here and support. Appreciate it. All right, item 4, approval of the minutes of the August 3rd meeting. I'm going to refer to Rick, please.
Yes, we found a few errors and I sent out a revised version. I believe that was yesterday. But then we found one more error in the first line of 6 financial reports. Beverly shared not the April, but the May sales tax. So we'll change April to May in the official version. The version I sent out Tuesday, I have hard copies if anybody would like those. Okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the August meeting as amended twice?
I make the motion.
Okay. Who was that?
Larry Tobias, I second that motion.
Okay.
This is Rick Hoover making
Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. I didn't see you. Sorry. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Awesome. Thank you. All right, financial. Lisa, you're on your own this time.
All right, and of course, the first time I'm doing this alone, we are under budget,
Okay,
by 0.8%. So that's below by 110,000. However, for the year, we are still over budget by 1.4 million. And we did exceed June of 2021 by 5.5%. So this is June numbers. I have not received July yet. It'll probably be another week, because these are 2 months in arrears.
and just for clarity, when you say under budget in terms of revenue collection,
Right, yeah.
okay, all right. So we didn't collect what we anticipated, but for the year, we're over.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions for Lisa on financials? Anybody online?
I just want to ask one question. This is your first month and this is the first month that we've been low in collection. Is this a trend?
No, it will not be a trend. I hope not.
Yeah, we'll withhold whether she's good news Lisa or
Yes.
bad news Lisa as we go through this process. So,
Yep,
welcome to the team.
thanks. Baptism by fire. Do you want me to move on to the?
Yes,
the
you may move
calendar?
on. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so I submitted the draft for the budget calendar. It is within a day or two, the same dates as it was last year. It meets all of the requirements for the state.
Okay. I noticed that the item number 6 on the draft budget is the first time. So November will be the first time that we see the draft budget here in the CAC. So just be aware of that the board will see a draft version prior to us seeing it. So just be mindful of that so that everybody's aware. I think we've been through that process enough. So
We do need a motion, please,
Um,
to recommend approve or a positive recommendation of the board for the calendar.
So do I have a recommendation to approve the proposed agenda for the board development to the board of directors? Ed Dills approve,
Joan Tree second.
Joan second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, item number 6A, the capital maintenance and transportation contract, City of Colorado Springs. Gail,
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the PPRTA CAC. Can you hear me okay today?
yes,
All right. Thank you. Today, the City of Colorado Springs, we have 8 contracts presented in our packet. We're actually going to be removing item number 4 on the contract list. And we'll not be considering it today due to some coordination issues that are still going on the procurement side for that particular contract. But I will be presenting the other several contracts for your consideration for recommendation to approval for the board. The city's first contract is the Circle Drive Bridge Replacement Project. That has replaced the 4 Circle Drive bridges, which are 4 separate A-list projects. The city pre-qualified 6 contractors in advance. We received bids from 5 of those 6 contractors. Those bids ranged between 3.4 and 18.6 over the engineer's estimate, but it still was relatively good pricing. We were very happy to see the result on that area. Right now, we have enough funds programmed through 24 to cover all the construction costs and everything we've contracted for construction management services to date. We may end up programming some additional dollars in either 23 or likely 2024 to cover additional costs that we would anticipate getting for construction management services. If you recall, we did a partial contract related to that. But anyway, with today, I think the good news is we have selected SEMA in the amount of $36,808,875.45, of which that will be funded through 3 different line items. The main line item for the A-list capital projects, which will be at just over $32.5 million. We have the roadway safety and traffic operations portion, which are going to be covering some of the improvements going down below on Hancock Expressway. And that is in the amount of $913,851.60. And then Colorado Springs Utilities items that they are responsible for, included in this bid, are just over $3.3 million. Questions related to that item?
Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, Carlos Pettis, alternate. Yeah, we may have the same question here about the use of the roadway safety and traffic ops line item. Was it always the intent for this particular project to use that line item? Because
Yes.
if you read this, it looks as though we barely have enough money in the budget for this bridges here, and that we had to be creative to go out to other line items here. I do understand basically on the rationale, it would have to be widened, but I just wanted to clarify, because the roadway safety and traffic ops, if you read what it's there, it's really more for spot improvements for existing infrastructure. This is a completely brand new project in
No.
the sense of a reconstruction.
Right. This actually is spot improvements on Hancock Expressway that for widening and sidewalks that don't exist today. With this bridge lengthening, it actually gives them an opportunity to go through and do that work at the same time. And it makes sense when they're building those abutments and the structures with the bridges, go through and do the widening, the spot widening in that area below the bridges. But it's always been the intent to use that program fund for this improvement. And I don't have it with me, but I know I'm fairly positive if we go back and look at the design contracts, we use some roadway safety funds to actually include that portion of the design with this overall bigger contract.
Okay, well, that answered my question. Maybe it was a similar question there, but I'll just go ahead and defer to other questions. I did have one more question though.
Gail, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard some comments from members of the board and the public that have been critical of project overrun cost in terms of what we originally projected for a project and what a project costs. And we've heard this over the years and whatnot. So what I'd like to point out is in the memo, much like we did with the Cottonwood Bridge over the Academy Boulevard over Cottonwood Creek Bridge and some other stuff. In this case, it was envisioned originally to do a rehab or whatever. And then when they did a cost analysis and cost value analysis on these things, it was more cost effective in the long run to replace the bridges versus the original cost estimates of repairing the bridges. And that was the case at Cottonwood Creek several years ago, and it's the case here. So as we go into ballot issues and questions and our constituents begin to make criticisms and questions, it's important that you refer to information like this, that they did a life cycle cost analysis, and due to the accelerated deterioration of the structure, it was more cost effective in the long run to replace it than it was to repair it. And so that when you just look at a list of numbers of what was originally proposed 15 years ago, 12 or 14 years ago as an estimate, and you look at what we're doing now, that's an important piece of information that helps justify that difference in cost. So I just encourage you to read these memos. Gail and the city have done, and the county as well, have done a great job when they've made that decision to do that replacement versus a repair, that there's justification for it. And it's not, quote, a cost overrun in the sense that we typically talk about cost overruns. And so it's a total scope change. So I just wanted to point that out. Gail, did I adequately express that?
No, I think that you did a nice job. Thank you. I will point out, if I could add on there, the conditions we've seen on the Circle Drive bridges are very similar to conditions we see on the Fillmore Street bridges, which we are proposing to be on the ballot. And we are actually pursuing federal grant monies today, hopefully with the intent to advance that project in advance of that ballot measure. Anyway, just something to have in your back pocket.
Okay, Carlos, did you have any other questions? Oh, Richard, go ahead.
I just like to point out the thing that we all know is in the last year, or maybe even the last 2 years, the cost of everything, particularly construction and even maintenance, the costs have just gone skyrocketing. And I don't want to see either our staff or our elected officials criticized for what may be perceived as cost overruns. It is just a ridiculous situation we're in right now. I don't know when it's going to settle down, but I think the staffs of all the jurisdictions and the elected officials that are on our board of directors, they're doing a damn good job, and they do not deserve criticism about cost overruns.
Okay. Any other question on this one? Let Gail go to number 2, Carlos.
Yeah, that actually just segued pretty well. Is there any contingencies for budget contingency for these inevitable things that we don't foresee with projects? This is a big project. There's 2 spans, or actually 4 spans there that we're going to be replacing. I just don't. I just expect maybe in the next budget that we see that we might actually put some money in there, like a 10% or 15% for a contingency. I just don't see that here unless it's I'm missing it.
As I mentioned, I'm going to program money likely in the 2024 year to handle contingency and what we would anticipate for additional construction management costs. Because if you recall, when I brought that construction management contract, we didn't know the duration depending on which contractor was selected and their means and methods. So when we put the construction management contract in place for, I believe it was 30 months, and construction could potentially take longer. So the answer is yes, I'm going to put contingency money in, and I contemplate doing it in 24 in the memo, in the comments underneath the budget line items.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Rick.
But this, you had contract amount and then the funds available. Is this money coming from the city going to be catch that short? We're 9 million short between them funds available and the contract amounts. If I'm reading this right, you have contract amounts totaling 32 million or plus,
Right.
but you have funds available only about 10 million short.
So I think maybe you have to look at more holistic. So the total bid is the 36.8 million.
Right,
That is paid for out of 3 separate accounts. So if you go down to the table below, so we have currently over 20 million available in the 22 budget, and programmed in 22 and 23, we have another 12.6 million.
I'm sorry, I didn't read sideways.
It's
I
okay.
read down.
It's all
I
right.
apologize.
Other
Okay.
questions related?
No, go to number 2.
All right, thank you. The second contract is for the I-25 ramps projects, the Nevada Tejon corridor improvements. This is the second of what we anticipated and laid out as 3 contracts we're anticipating going forth for this particular project. The first contract was for the initial traffic analysis. This contract with Wilson and Company adds in engineering plans, specs, cost estimate, construction plans, really to get us to the bid items. The total contract amount or total of this change order is $975,091. And we're asking for the board's approval to add this on to continue that particular project. Questions on that item?
Just to maybe related, in the memo, it did talk about, I remember 6 months or so ago or whatever, they were going to do a traffic study or traffic analysis. Is that underway, or is that complete, or did that?
The traffic analysis is complete. They've been doing work with coordination work with CDOT as well. And they've really ironed it down to the selected alternatives. So they really need to continue to flesh that out, and they'll pick up where they've left off with this previous contract and start going into the engineering efforts.
Due to the size and the complexity of that particular area, that where this is going is when it's appropriate, would it be feasible to just give us a very brief rundown of how that analysis turned out in terms of, what we're going to do? That's a very
Yes.
complex
Mhm.
intersection.
Yeah, I think we're probably a few months away from being able to do that, but I'd be happy to bring that back to you in 2 or 3 months
Just-
when they
just-
get to flush that out. So they have completed the traffic analysis, again, the alternatives analysis, really finalizing that, and I'll bring that to you with what they're planning on advancing.
When it's appropriate. Thank you.
Yes. I'm gonna write myself a note to make sure I get that on the schedule, though.
Well, that it ties in, it could potentially tie into that whole movement of the rail lines with the realignment of those bridge structures and whatnot down there. So just trying to keep the big picture in mind and how it all kind of meshed together, I think helps us as we talk to the public about how those.
Absolutely, and I think also giving it that team to advance a little bit further than where they are right now will give us an idea where we're going to be on funding for the Megan Infra grant and for that South Downtown Rail reconstruction project. And also give Mountain Metro an opportunity to complete their passenger rail station
Passenger rail
location
study, yeah.
study. So, and I think that's to your point, that there's a lot of potential going on
Right.
down in that area to continue coordinating some of those efforts.
Thank you.
Right, the city's third contract is also for the Circle Drive bridges. As you recall, last month I brought a memo outlining some of the emergency repairs that needed to take place. As you recall, the existing 4 bridges that are there need to remain in place and operational during construction of the first 2 bridges under the major construction project. And as I mentioned before, the first round of emergency repairs is stabilizing 3 of the piers. Each of those pier stabilization efforts cost $552,646.48. So that gives us a total of just over $1.6 million already spent for the stabilization on those piers. What I'm bringing forth for you today is the contractor improved replacement of the rocker bearings on those 3 piers in advance of the construction project. The total cost replacement of those rocker bearings is $1,130,288.81. Wildcat has been selected to perform that work. The total cost for this repairs are just under 2.8 million. So $2,788,228.50 to complete that effort. I did include a picture on the memo that shows one of the piers being stabilized, just kind of give you an idea with that order of magnitude. Questions on that particular item?
Okay, good.
Okay.
We
This
do
is,
have a hand, sorry.
Wait a minute, Scott's got a question.
Yeah, I just had a question for Gail. So you got one contractor rehabbing the existing bridges and another contractor constructing the new bridges. Are you concerned about any interaction between the 2 contractors and finger pointing between the 2?
No, great question, Scott. Short answer is no. We're anticipating the repairs being done towards the end of the year. Even though we're making a construction selection right now, we're going to be issuing a limited notice to proceed to the contractor to give them the ability to start getting permits, because there's a lot of railroad permits associated with this activity, or there are railroad permits. There's other stormwater permits. There's some materials that are going to be ordered and start prefabbing and doing their submittals. So with long story short, the maintenance contractors should be done and out of the way probably 2 or 3 months in advance for SEMA getting out there and actively performing the replacement work. And even if there was overlap, the new bridge, the first phase of the bridge construction actually happens to the south side of the 2 existing bridges. So if you recall when Ryan Phipps was here, it's been a handful of months ago now, when he kind of laid that out, those 2 bridges stay in operation while the first set of bridges are built to the south or off alignment replacement. And then they'll start demoing one of the existing bridges and building the second set in the future.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Oh, Tony,
I don't have the microphone here.
that's okay. Speak loud.
So, Gail, just a quick question. If, I'm sure most people in the room really remember what happened with the, incredible skyrocketing, costs of the bridge. The walking bridge over.
Head bridge, yeah.
Railroad over here. Are we fairly sure that that's not gonna happen with the bridge over this railroad? That we're not going to have issues with the railroad saying, oh, we have to do this and that and this and that, and, you know, see it go from 30 million to 60?
That, that's a great question. They are a little bit different projects though in nature, right? If you recall on that Ped Bridge, it was a non-typical design, a lot of special fabrication and testing that took place, and then a lot of coordination because they actually had to take and close down the rail lines during the placement of that bridge. So I just think it's different in nature because they're going to continue to have operational capabilities on the tracks at all times during the construction. Or if they had to do something, it would be a short-term coordination of operations. So I wouldn't anticipate that. The one thing we're having to be cognizant of, maybe a good segue, is that with our contracts now and the way we've seen some price fluctuations, there are some triggers in our contracts where we can have line item adjustments after the award of contract. We've had one, and I think I've got a second one pending on construction costs. Because suppliers have either gone out of business and get a new supplier, there's a jump, or just available materials. There's also fuel increase provisions, although now we've seen in fuel prices drop that down. I think we're short term, we're going to be okay there. But we do need to be cognizant that there are some cost escalation provisions on line items. I wouldn't expect it to be in the same order of magnitude though with what you were describing.
Are there going to be any land acquisition costs or the impact of that parking lot of that shopping center there if you realign it to the south at all?
If there are, we've already incurred them.
Okay,
I think that I know we had to get some easements. I can't remember if we had to do full blown acquisition.
Okay.
I know there were easements. We did have one. Normally we try not to use condemnation, but we did have one condemnation item on this particular project, but the land acquisition is complete for the most part.
thank you.
Other questions on that item? Okay, I'm skipping item number 4. Maybe I should just mention, we are gonna have to bring other construction contractors on board out of cycle just because we have such a need, and that's a whole supply chain and workforce issue. The city's contract number 5 is for the Barnes Road improvements. This is we're doing cost reconciliations to finish closing out that particular contract. As you recall, there was a lot of utility relocation work involved in that particular project. The total cost of those relocation efforts are $383,082.16. Under an agreement that the city has with utilities when we cost share relocations. We are responsible for some of the relocation costs based on the age of that infrastructure. In this case, we are responsible for reimbursing utilities in the amount of $238,594.42. As you can see from the memorandum that there is funds available in that account in excess of that value. Actually, I take that back. That's the one where we had been holding the exact right amount of funds in that contract. It's the next one. We have excess values. Questions on that item? Okay, moving on to the airport road contract. This one is also, we're in the process of closing out contracts and finalizing change order. This is a change order for Kiewit Infrastructure for the work that they performed outside, additional work they performed for replacing the missing segment of sidewalk on the southwest side of that bridge. And the drainage infrastructure really adjacent to that bridge to really complete the overall transportation infrastructure in that area. There had been about a 500-foot gap. Not only was it a sidewalk problem, it actually created a major drainage problem on the roadway in that area. So we had the opportunity to add that in at the time. And then that completes that sidewalk segment on Airport Road all the way from Academy to Shelton on both sides. That amount is for $233.991 for that ad for that contract. And as you can see from the memo, we really, this is the one where we, that is well below, about 500,000 below the remaining funds for that contract. So sometime soon, and likely in the budget process, as we continue to close that out, you'll see us reallocate a bulk of that remaining 500,000 somewhere else.
That's a nice structure. I like how they flowed that water from the north and the way they tiered it and came down. That's a very nice structure.
Thank you. Next contract is for 2022 Bridge and Capital Construction Management and Inspection Services. This is a task order for Roxall in the amount of just under $100,000. It would be split 50-50 between likely the South Academy construction project and for our bridge maintenance efforts. This is an employee that had previously been an NV5 employee, now works for Roxall, but we want to continue to have continuity and have that person continue to provide services to the city. The cost for this task order will be offset by available remaining capacity in the contract that the city has with NV5 for said services. Questions related to contract 7? And contract number 8, this is for a bridge, or I'm sorry, for a roadway maintenance program. They dig out and patch. This is really to fund an on-call contract the city has in place with Trax Construction for maintenance services in 22 and 23. This is the last year and their option year for this particular service. We're proposing to add $750,000 to their contract. And what they do, if you see, and you see it particularly when there's been settlement around storm sewer lines and residential street, where you'll have larger cracks. So you'll have distressed asphalt or pavements. So what they'll end up doing, because it's so wide, some more traditional patching methods don't necessarily work or won't hold up. So what they do is they'll cut around that area, take out that bad material, recompact that and place new material and seal it up in those areas. And that's what the dig out and patch program does. Any questions on that particular?
If they're doing that, Trax also does work for utilities too, right?
They do, Trax does a lot of restoration work for utilities.
So if they're digging out for a utilities related problem, does utilities pay for that? Or do we pay for it?
Yes. So we have, anytime utilities comes and does work in the right of way, they have to pull a right of way excavation permit. And so that goes through a probation acceptance and a 2-year warranty period. And a lot of times, if there are issues after they've come through and done work, that they'll send trucks back out there to do repair. This is not been duplicate of that effort that utilities was responsible for.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just to comment on this, this type of work had been done in my neighborhood, and I did speak one time with their contractor because I was curious what they were doing. They also, and it may be the same thing, but the person who was actually doing the work, they called it a wide crack patch.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, wide crack is how he referred to it, and he was doing the work with a trench. But he had explained to me that if the cracks are a certain width, they'll actually measure that. They'll actually have to go out there and dig it out, or they trench it and then they patch it. And so you get this kind of what it looks like a 6 to 8 inch, strip through there. Just because the cracks themselves just cannot be filled in with, let's say, just a crack seal type of thing.
Right, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I would say that they're not limited to just doing those wide cracks. They'll do areas that are larger than the typical pothole replacement. So they've got a distressed pavement area, like a lot of alligator cracking, and it's really starting to deteriorate, that they'll remove that asphalt, remove any bad subgrade that are in there and build that pavement section back up and seal it.
All right. Any other questions for Gail on the city's project? Good comments, good discussion. Ryan, you cannot vote anymore, or your vote doesn't count anymore. We've had some people show up.
And it looks like we have a comment in chat
Oh.
from Karen Aspelin.
Karen, go ahead.
She just expressed, I will need to recuse myself from this
Oh.
vote, recuse myself, excuse me,
Okay.
from this vote.
Ed, did you have a question?
Yes, going back to number 2, I know you covered that extensively, but Will the bicycle part that you're doing with that, will that connect to existing bicycle trails, or is that just immediate bicycle area?
Yeah, they've been looking at options to get a crossing under I-25 to get to the Pikes Peak Greenway.
Okay,
And so I know they've been working out the details on that. Unfortunately, I can't give you the specifics on that, but when Ryan brings a presentation, you'll be able to see the options they have for that connection.
okay. I think it'd be great if we could.
That was one of the project goals, to try to get that connectivity
Okay,
somewhere through that area.
okay, thank you.
Okay, if I don't hear any other, if I don't have any other questions, I don't see any other hand raised. Do I hear a motion to accept the city's request, Joan?
Move to accept all the items with the exception of number 4, which was withdrawn.
Thank you. Have a second.
I second Tamara Dipner.
Thank you, Tamara. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Joshua County.
Good afternoon, Josh Palmer, El Paso County Engineer. Excuse me. The loan item that I have today is request to recommend approval for a new contract for AECOM. This is for the South Academy project. AECOM had originally been under contract. Excuse me, with El Paso County to do the scour and final design for the South Academy project. This is a 2-mile project widening from Drennan to I-25, which is part of the MAMSIP project. So AECOM has since completed the scope of their original contract, and we're requesting a new contract with them to continue with design, including OPCC and CAP support, de-scoping and value engineering. This is a contract in the amount of $1,256,191. I had mentioned previously that during the design process and the opinion of probable construction costs, there was a significant underestimation of the actual cost from the final design that AECOM provided to the tune of $10 to $12 million. Our estimate had it, in the $45 to $47 million range, and the contractor and the third-party consultant estimated our final design cost to be in the range of $62 million. So we are looking to bring AECOM back on board to help with de-scoping and some value engineering to kind of bridge that gap. And we believe that their services can bridge that gap to the tune of $8 to $10 million, with the remaining cost found elsewhere through other funding.
Any other questions for Joshua? What about your second one on the Meridian Falcon?
I apologize. That wasn't a loan item. This is the first item.
Oh, okay.
So any additional questions for the AECOM contract, South Academy?
No.
Do we need to vote on that one, or do you move on to the next one?
No, go on to your next one.
Okay, I believe the second item and final item, make sure. Yep, that's right. This is for a contract amendment number 4 for Benish in the amount of $52,922.09, and this to close out the Meridian US 24 New Meridian Falcon Park and Ride project. This is to provide construction support, construction management support for the punch list items, which include some rework of roundabout, handrail, sidewalk issues, final punch list items that we came up with in coordination with the city of Colorado Springs.
Go ahead, Rick.
Where exactly is that park and ride going to be?
Excuse me?
Where's that park and ride going to be?
Where's the parking ride going to be?
Yeah.
It's at the intersection, I believe, of New Meridian and Swing Line. So this is south of US 24.
Oh, okay, down.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't on this map. and
Oh, I
It
apologize.
kept
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
and I was wondering, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, the project has been substantially complete for months now. But because it's kind of three projects in one in coordination with the city and CDOT, there's kind of a long laundry list of very small but extensive punch list items that we're continuing to work through.
Josh, will this amendment and work actually finally close out this project totally?
Yes,
So we won't see any more amendments coming forward there.
if I cross my
Never
fingers
s-
behind my back, I'll can
And
answer
never
yes.
say,
Yeah.
never say never.
No,
right?
yeah, never say never. But I
What you're hoping is this is the last one.
yes, that's what I'm hoping. And I'm pretty confident in that. I made sure that our project manager understood, well, let's go back for one final amendment for whatever we need. And he's confident that this will get us through to the end.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the county's recommendation?
Larry Tobias, I move for approval of the two items as presented by Josh.
We'll go with Ann this time, Richard. Thank you, Ann. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6C, City of Manitou. Joel, how you doing today?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joel Grabenick, City Engineer for Manitou Springs. I've got two items on your agenda today. The first one, we are just kind of doing some consolidation of funds so that we can kind of represent what work is done and then focus those remaining funds where we need to work. And then our second item is to approve a change order for us where we wrapped up partial demolition of Hiawatha. I don't know if anyone's been into Manitou in a while, judging by our visitation numbers. All of you have been in Manitou at some point. But we did a lot of partial demolition on that building. And then these were some things that we, of course, uncovered and found as we were working through. And so this wraps up that work for us at Hiawatha, and that project is complete for right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question about that Hiawatha thing. It's been going on forever. It seems like when we purchased that thing and did it, and I was just curious, is this kind of wrapping it up? So you kind of.
This is phase one of this very important project to us. This primarily did the partial demolition, which consolidated and removed all of the non-structurally sound and non-historically important parts of the building. What's left is what was the original dance hall from the 1890s. It's very structurally sound. It's impressively built. You know, it's experienced a handful of floods and there's no evidence of water damage, flood damage. It's the original floor. And Nichols is on the call and she remembers bowling at Hiawatha. So to continue that, what we're currently working on now is we have several site layouts that we've developed, some site plans. We've taken it to the community 2 or 3 times and we've received a bunch of feedback. And so right now we actually have a preferred plan identified that council is supporting or community is supporting. And then we are looking to, and this includes an amenity, mobility hub. It includes permanent bathrooms, so we can get rid of the porta potties. And also includes a potential access over the creek from Manitou Avenue for pedestrian access to our mobility hub. And so we are actually looking, and you'll see me again here in the future, coming back with additional contracts for this capital improvement project. We would like to proceed on building the mobility hub and the bathrooms. And then so the RTA funds can be used for that. The actual renovation of the building, we're gonna have to find a different color of money to renovate the building. So that's kind of like where all systems go on that. So
You had a fair amount of hazardous material.
we did.
involved in that,
Yep.
didn't you?
Yep. There was quite a few. I didn't know there were that many different kinds of asbestos, but there are. And so we mitigated all those. We came back and had everything tested. So that tested clean. That allowed us to get our demolition permit through a regional building.
Great. Any questions for Dole? Rick?
just request the CAC make this two separate motions. Well, one for the line item transfer and one for the contract amendment.
Yeah, okay, good catch. Okay, so do I hear a motion to accept the line item transfer that was initiated up front to move those monies together into that project? Do I hear a motion? Tony? Joan?
Second.
Joan, second. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. For the second motion on, the second motion was the Hiawatha, no, the transit parking part,
Partial demolition for Hiawatha.
Hiawatha, yeah. Partial demolition for Hiawatha. Anybody want to make a motion for that? Mr. Hoover, Rick Hoover, second. Ed Dills. Second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Dole.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Moving right along, 7A, transit services. Welcome, Brian.
Good afternoon, Brian Vituli, Transit Planning Supervisor with Mountain Metro Transit in the city of Colorado Springs with your monthly transit report. For our local fixed route service, we provided a little over 218,000 trips in July of this year. We were 12.7% higher than July of 2021. And we're about 72% of where we should be compared to pre-COVID levels. So it was a good month. The last several months, as you can see from the chart at the bottom of that first page, yeah, we've been showing really good ridership growth for 2022 so far. For our ADA paratransit services, we provided just about 8,000 trips in July of this year. So that's an increase of 3.6% as compared to July of 2021. And still ways down from July of 2019. For our specialized paratransit taxi choice options, we provided 91 passenger trips this July. That's slightly down from June of this year, just about under 19%. And then finally, for our van pool services, we operated 6 vans in July. That's one more than June, so that's good news. 33 active riders making 727 trips, although it's still down 6% from July of 2021. And we are looking, as far as our marketing campaign goes, to make a big push for van pool promotion coming up this fall as the managed lane opens full on. So we're hoping to get some billboard placements and hopefully kick that program back into gear. Hopefully that'll help.
Just for curiosity, does the van pool, do you guys cover those tolls or will they be collected among the participants in the vehicle?
Well, my understanding is a certain number of people in a vehicle you can go for free.
Okay.
So there's no
Okay.
handling of
Okay.
money. That would be pretty confusing. So yeah, this makes it simple.
Okay.
From what I've read, Jim, is that if you have 3 or more people in a vehicle, as Brian says, there's no charge for using the express lane.
Cool. Okay.
And on the final page, just a project report. I came to you last month, I believe, with our fall 2022 service change proposal. We finished our public process for that. We did approve all of those changes. This is one of our largest service changes that I can ever remember. So we are moving forward with implementation at the end of this month. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to do a phased implementation. We're still suffering from operator shortage. We gain a little ground and then we lose it a little bit. So we're trying to work through that to see how that plays out, which services we can implement on September 25th and which ones need to wait until we have more operators. But it is still going to be a plus. We are going to be adding service this fall, but it's just going to take us a little bit of time to fully implement. And, we're working with, it's kind of a perfect storm of issues. Not only do we have this ongoing operator shortage with, which we're not alone. I mean, nationwide agencies are struggling with that. But we're ready to switch fixed route contractors. So that the new contractor will start at the beginning of 2023. So the existing contractor is, not really doing all that they should do or can do to recruit new people. So we're kind of struggling through that too. But it's, the class sizes are recruiting class sizes are still kind of small. And out of that, 5 or 10 people, we may get, 6 or 4 that stick around. But then in the meantime, there's seasoned operators who are deciding they don't want to go through a new contract change and work for a new contractor. So some of them are leaving. So we're gaining a few and we're losing a few. And it's just continual frustration because we're getting funds to implement more service and we're doing that, but we're still somewhat hamstrung by the situation.
You didn't you raise some of the wages to help recruiting a little bit?
Yeah.
Is there any data nationwide or elsewhere that's giving you any inclination of why aren't people wanting to come back to driving? Do you have any?
Nothing hard like that. We're hearing, like you all are probably hearing, just people reassessing their careers and their choices. A lot of agencies are still struggling with this. A lot of them are offering higher starting wages for training and then a bump when you become a full operator. A lot are offering signing bonuses, that you get if you stay for a year or however long. So there's all kinds of creative solutions, but it really involves, kind of throwing more money at the problem. And I thought we were kind of coming over the hurdle with that, but there's other situations that kind of make that a little bit more challenging. But we are still excited about the new service we're going to be adding. It's just we would love to do it all at once, but and then so this isn't in your report, but I just wanted to report out because we just got some final numbers. Last month, just a couple of days ago, August, we did our Zero Fare for Better Air campaign. It's part of the statewide effort where transit agencies can apply for reimbursement through the Colorado Energy Office to recover that lost fare for going fare free. And we're really pleased with the results. So overall, comparing August of this year to August of 2021 for fixed route and ADA powered transit, we are like 62.5% higher than August of 2021. And, granted, August of 2021, wasn't stellar. We were still dealing with COVID and all of that. So ridership was kind of low. But when you compare it to August of 2019, this is pre-COVID, when we were having really good ridership numbers. This August, we were only like 2.3% below that. So it's a pretty great result. We're really happy with that. We're already getting questions about, are we going to, make our system fare free forever? It's a little bit too early to go there, but this will likely be a campaign that we'll consider to be part of again next year during ozone season. So so this was a really great start. So we're pretty happy with that. And adding on to that, you know, our downtown shuttle started at the end of May. So it's a service that runs along Tejon Street, down around the Widener Field and up to the Olympic Museum, and then Colorado College's Robeson Arena. That started, you know, one of the last weekends of May. I think we had some pretty crummy weather at about, you know, 500 trips per week. Right now, as of last week, the last full week of counting, we're up to about 1,900 trips for the week. So that's, you know, averaging what 270 some riders a day. So it's the growth chart on ridership for that has been going up since late May. So that's something we're really excited about. And we're probably looking for a ribbon cutting or to do our full launch sometime in October. And we will let you all know, because it would be nice to have some representation from this group at that ribbon cutting, because that's, you know, you've been a big part of that. So so more to come on that.
Good. Tony, you had a question? Just a minute, Richard. Tony was first.
So Brian, I was out of circulation here for about 6 months, and I kind of lost track of what was going on. What we've been talking about for years is the downtown transportation hub happening. What's going on with that?
Sure. Well, yeah, we presented to council early this year, I don't know, February or so. So there has been kind of some really good movement. So you missed a lot, but you know, it's kind of a multi-party partnership between transit, the city's parking enterprise, the city's urban renewal authority, and the private developer. So there is a site, it's on the southern side of, northeastern side of Pikes Peak and Nevada. So it's that surface parking lot that's just below the city auditorium and Mountain Chalet. It's owned by Norwood, and I believe the city is very close to getting an executed contract with a consultant that's going to start this schematic and conceptual design process that pretty much outlines the, you know, the tasks of all the parties and what they'd be responsible for, because we can't use transit funds for parking construction or private development. So it's going to kind of, you know, divide up the responsibilities and tasks for each party. And then
The fact that you were able to tell me where.
Yeah.
Is a huge.
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Brian, if I could add on for Tony's benefit, Ryan Phipps, who's the city's project manager for that facility, was here 2 or 3 months ago and gave a presentation. So I know it's available in the CACS packet. So you missed it. And then if you take a look at it, I know Ryan would be happy to go through it with you at a more informal basis, just to get you up to speed to where that's at. And we brought the contract, I think, as well. There's not PPRTA funds included in that work right now, but there, you know, there could be in the future. So we wanted to make sure that PPRTA, CAC and board were involved in day one.
Thank you.
Richard?
The transit situation, of course, it covers a lot of areas, just about everything except the automobiles, which is fine. But I look at the charts for the total ridership by month of taxis, and I look at the chart Metro rides, Van Pool total ridership by month. And we are basically out of the pandemic. We're now facing a recession maybe, but I don't think we're really facing anything in either area, and have not been for some time, that we can blame the ridership on the continuing on the pandemic and all, with the exception that during that period of last year and this year, and this caused people to change their habits. And I think the problem that in these two areas, that our colleagues that are the staff are working extremely hard, and I'm not critical of them. I am critical of the results, and I'm not blaming the staff for it. But if I were the person that was trying to look at the best use of funds and the cost per ride, I would really have to look very hard at the continuation of the van pool and the taxi service. It's unless the within the if the funds, of course, are being lowered and the cost per ridership is not rising, that would be good. But I don't know that, and we don't see that from the data. But I think that the city needs to face in these two areas. I don't think let's say I'll change that. You may never get back to the levels you had in 2021 and previous years to that. And I just think maybe you need to look hard at that and look realistically and decide what you want to do. And I support each and every one of the areas that you are active in. And there are reasons to do something there. But I do think if you want to continue in the van pool and the taxi, which I hope you can, I recommend that you face up to the fact that you're not going to increase that, but so much, no matter what you do, and move forward. Thank you.
Jim.
Okay.
Joan.
Richard, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here on this. We are still feeling the effects of COVID. People that I know that normally worked in an office are still working from home more and more. I have several friends whose companies, and these are folks that used to take that van pool up to Denver, are permanently working from home. And they go in maybe once a quarter for a team meeting kind of thing. So we still have a considerable number of folks that are working from home. As far as the van pool, even with the numbers down, it still helps towards reducing the congestion on I-25 during those rush hour periods. So I think at this point, to look at anything about the paratransit or the van pool would be pound wise and penny foolish, in my opinion.
I only offer this. I agree with you that people indeed are staying at home, but what has happened? My daughter is with an organization called Community Bible Study, and she is one of the directors under the executive director. And the fact is, people have come to realize and desire to work from home now. this is a cultural change. And it's not gonna change, but it very much, I think. Now, what the CEOs and the decision makers, what they are gonna say to their employees, I don't know what they're gonna do. I think it's gonna vary all over the place. Some firms are indeed saying, if you don't come and work at the office, you're gonna be fired. And some people are just accepting that and they go look for a different job. Or they just decide they're not to work anymore. But it's not so much the fear of us catching a terrible disease. It's a change in the lifestyle. And that's what's happened. There's nobody's blame, certainly not on our staff that handles transit. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying we have a cultural change. And I don't think it's going to get better. So I'm asking that they keep this, at least consider this. And make good decisions based on what's happening. Thank you.
Brian,
I'm not different
go ahead, Rick.
really with you much.
Brian, could you maybe give some of the information to us again about the restrictions and requirements you have for your para transit unit? Aren't you required to have certain amount of stuff available to these folks?
Yes, by law, we have to provide complimentary ADA paratransit services within 3/4 of a mile of our fixed route transit network. Same hours that the fixed route service operates for folks who cannot use the fixed route system. So that is by law. We have to provide that. And the taxi choice program is, if I can make a statement here, having low numbers for the taxi choice program is not a bad thing, because those trips cost a lot. And the customer does pay a premium for that service, but it is another option for those folks to take that. So the same thing with ADA paratransit numbers. If we can improve our connectivity to our bus stops, improve sidewalks, or actually build sidewalks where there's dirt paths, that people with limited mobility can access our fixed route system, that is more cost effective than giving them an ADA paratransit ride. So having low ADA paratransit ridership isn't necessarily a bad thing either, but it is available to everybody within 3/4 of a mile of our transit network. And so, Rick, yes, but by law, we do have to provide that. So thank you both for your comments. The van pool program, we're certainly not even thinking about giving up on that. We do have funding for several more years for that program. Despite the numbers, I am confident that numbers will improve when situations change. And, as I mentioned earlier, with the managed lane kicking into gear this fall, that could be a real boost for that program. I also want to add, that there are new greenhouse gas rules that we're all going to have to abide by. Us in this region having a voluntary travel demand management program like the van pool program puts us in a good position from having to be told that we have to have one. So we already have one. We've had one for many years.
We get credit for that.
We get credit for that. So it is going to benefit us in the long run. And it is a good program. There are people using it. Yes, it's not where it was in, August of 2019, but we're hoping that we'll get there, and with some good promotions coming up this fall, and some really funny billboards. We think that you'll all be pleased. So stay tuned.
Good. Good comment, good discussion. I think the trend of working, I've heard some reports just this week about some companies are beginning to crack back down now. And as you said, some people are making the decision, no, I'm not going if I can't work from home, and they're having to find alternatives. But some companies are now cracking back down. You got to remember, they've got a huge investment in infrastructure sitting here with empty buildings with nobody in them. And so they've got, so anyway, more to come. Thank you, Brian. Any other comments or questions?
Brian, I have a question. I've seen a couple of your electric buses on the different routes. How is that working out? And are all the buses that you got on routes now, or are you still implementing it?
Yep. No, for the most part, yes. We, 2 are dedicated to Route 23, which go out along the Austin Bluffs, Barnes corridors.
That's probably why I see those.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are dedicated to that route. And the other 2, we were able to get another charger online. So now we have 2 chargers. We're able to keep them charged, and we're rotating the other 2 throughout our system and kind of testing how they perform on some of those routes. So it is, we're in a better situation now with that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other questions for Brian? Thanks, Brian.
I have a question, please.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. Yeah, this is Craig Gooding from Green Mountain Falls, Brian. Got, I guess, 2 questions. Number 1, related to the fixed routes. You did mention in your report that revenue service hours were up for several reasons, including that the free downtown shuttle is included in that. I guess my first question is, why is the free shuttle included in revenue service hours if it doesn't generate revenue? And then the other question is, are the boardings for that free shuttle also included in your numbers?
So, all right. So first question, don't take revenue service hours literally to mean that they're only for routes that operate on where riders pay fares. We calculate all of the hours that a route operates serving the public as revenue service hours. So yes, it is included in that total revenue service hours total, and ridership for the downtown shuttle is included in the total ridership as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 7B, City of Colorado Springs monthly change order acquisition. That information is in your packet. It's an information only. Anybody have any questions about that micro print? You hit enlarge button on your computer. Yeah. All right, seeing no questions, no hand raised. Item 7C, El Paso County change order, monthly change order request. Any issues with that with anybody? All right. Item 8A, recent board actions. Rick?
This is an information item. Be glad to take any questions. While I'm looking around for questions, I just want to amplify on number 14. The ballot for November 8. There were 4 steps that the board authorized and I had to take. One was an IGA intergovernmental agreement with the El Paso County Clerk and Recorder's Office, which the board approved and I signed and delivered to the clerk's office. Number two was a $225,000 check for half of our estimated ballot cost. So that I delivered that as well. And then the third and fourth items are an English version of the ballot and a Spanish version of the ballot. The state law from the 2021 session that mandated that certain counties had to provide or ballot measures that went to county elections, coordinated elections, had to be both in English and Spanish, and El Paso County is one of those counties. So we had to search and find a certified English to Spanish translation firm, which I did. I found 3 and then asked for quotes and took the low quote. And so I've submitted the ballot in English and Spanish to the El Paso County Clerk Recorder's Office. Questions? Any other questions about the entire report? Okay, just information.
You want to do the quarterly reports?
Certainly. These are the quarterly reports of the work that's been completed in the prior calendar quarter. In this case, it's the second calendar quarter. So this is what has been submitted by the 6 member governments, and it's also what I use to do my drive around windshield confirmation on a quarterly basis that I've started and will be doing in the next couple of weeks as time permits. So any questions?
Just a comment of, especially for some of, just a reminder for some of our new members, these quarterly reports are a great go-to tool to have available if you throw away everything else for a committee. Having one of these available in case somebody in next door is whining or complaining about something, or you got somebody to ask a question. This is a great go-to resource. And then Rick, is there, looking at the RTA website, it looks like the quarterly reports are there through 2021. Is there a way to take some of these 2022? And the reason I say that is as we go into discussions in the public forum about ballot, we can refer people back to progress with pictures and things that we can refer back to have a good source. As some of you may know, I'm pretty sensitive to that mode right now as we start into this discussion. So just asking a question.
Yes, excellent question. I'll double check and make sure that the first quarter and second quarter quarterly reports are posted on the website.
Thank you. Rick?
On these things here, I just might add, we're coming up to an election for this renewal. Using this would be an excellent way to show the value of passing the next RTA. Because if you go through here, I read through this before I came, there is so much positive in these doggone reports that if anybody votes no on them, they're ignorant. And we can use these as reference materials and talking points for the new ballot measure.
Exactly. And that was exactly my point. So yeah, good point. It's a good way to point somebody to the website to say, hey, if you're interested in something, this is an idea. So when
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to mention today, it was shared with me earlier today, and I wanted to make sure you are aware that the Coalition to extend PPRTA has a website now. It's extendpprta.com. And it also is a resource for you if you wanted to send somebody there to see the ballot in advance. But I would agree with what Rick said, that it's very important to show the transparency as reflected in our quarterly reports. as well.
Extend PPRTA.
It's extendpprta.com.
Okay. And I might also take a moment I'd be remiss in failing to recognize the tremendous amount of work that the member government staffs put together to make this and keep this current. We need to thank the member government staffs for that excellent work. Okay. I'm gonna keep my mouth quiet about that one. Okay, agenda topics for next meeting. Any questions or any burning issues that anybody wants to talk about? Okay. I've got a couple of things I want to talk about with Rick. And if there is something that we're going to add to it, then we'll use the appropriate mechanisms to let everybody know as we go through that. Any communications by any of the committee members that you want to share with the group? Anybody in the audience have any communications you want to share with the group? All right, very good. Say again. Oh, online, yes, online folks. Anybody got anything you want to share? Any special projects you're doing or anything?
No.
Okay. All righty. Then I guess we'll call, sorry, Gail.
Mr. Chair, City of Colorado Springs, we do have a couple of quick announcements for you.
Okay.
You should all have an invitation for this, but there is a ribbon cutting for the Platte Avenue Bridge project on September 14th at 11 o'clock. And then there will be a ribbon cutting for the Centennial Boulevard extension. We're anticipating a ribbon cutting for the Centennial Boulevard extension on October 28th, that Friday. So if you want to put a placeholder on your calendar for that, you should see a date for that here in the near future. And the last thing I'll mention, the Chrissy grant, which is that railroad grant, federal discretionary grant, City was successful winning last year. That NOFO is out. We are making a determination whether or not we're going to submit on that. And if so, I'll be coming back and asking for a letter of support.
Good deal. All right. Then do I have a motion to adjourn? So move, Tony. Any second? Anybody say nay? All right, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all for your time.